Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days in today's video. We'll also have a look at the CFS-V2 for the next month, which takes us into February, and we'll see what's going on in the stratosphere as well. So, quite a bit to cram in, but before I get on with that, just to very quickly say a big thank you to everybody that's been watching the videos at Gaz Weather Vid's YouTube channel since March 2014, I should say. And that includes everybody at the website, of course, at gazweathervids.com, because all of the videos that we put to the YouTube channel are embedded onto the website. In the past 3 years, well, actually it's not quite 3 years, but just under 3 years, it's taken us to get to 1 million video views. So this is the number of video views that we've had so far, and as you see, we did it yesterday, gone over 1 million views for our YouTube channel, and that's in less than 3 years. So a big thank you to everybody for watching the videos, enjoying the videos, hopefully, and just keep coming back to see all of the updates that we've been posting. When I started gazweathervids.com and the videos, I never imagined that it would get as big as it has done. So a huge thank you to all of you for watching the videos. Just wish I could give you all the weather that you want. I know a lot of you are watching to see whether we're going to get snow, and we haven't had any really since we started the Gaz Weather Vids YouTube channel in 2014. One of these winters we will have a cold and snowy one for you. But anyway, you keep coming back to watch the videos, even when we haven't got much cold and snow about. So a huge thank you to everybody for doing that. Right, let's get on with the video then, and we're going to start off with the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts. We've got the ECMDF here on the top, GFS is on the bottom. These are the mean flowcharts next week to 10 days. This takes us to around the 27th of January. Won't go into this too much, we looked at them yesterday, but still the same idea as we had just here. The trough of low pressure is in the Atlantic, the ridge is over across central and eastern parts of Europe, and the jet stream is doing something like that. Very gradually, this trough is breaking down the ridge. It's taking a long time, and for the southeast, we could have a fair amount of dry weather well into next week before that ridge eventually gets broken down. Quite how much rain we bring into the southeast towards the end of January is open to question. I think the northwest will certainly turn and settle. Not so sure about the southeast. This is the GFS, so again we've got the ridge there through central parts of Europe. Low pressure is in the Atlantic, and that low pressure is very gradually breaking down that ridge, which is taking a long time, especially to the southeast. However, to the northwest, it is more unsettled. The air is being dragged up from the Azores as well next week, so it's likely to turn significantly milder, especially so for the north and the west. So these are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. And for the next week, for this week into weekend, so like the next week, we're generally close to average, maybe over weekend going a little bit colder than average. Next week, we're lifting up milder than average. And in terms of precipitation, we can see that there's a real two-way split with almost universally dry weather for the rest of this week and into weekend, and then next week the precipitation spikes are coming back big time. Now, how much precipitation we get into southeast next week, I think that is open to question at the moment. That looks very wet for next week, I have to say, but whether it turns out to be as wet as that, let's just wait and see. I suspect we will have a wet week next week in the north, so Scotland, Northern Ireland, North West England, North Wales, quite a lot of rain there. But from the Midlands, south and east, let's wait and see just how much rain we bring through. These are the temperature anomalies for next week, and again, most of Europe is locked into the freezer there. From Spain and Portugal in the west over to the Black Sea and all places in between looking significantly colder than average. Come further north, the British Isles is close to average, maybe a little bit above, especially so for the north. And the real warm temperature anomalies across Scandinavia and western parts of Russia. The precipitation anomaly, again, it's significantly drier than average from the 17th to 25th of January, especially so for western and southwestern parts of Europe. This is the GFS for Saturday then. High pressure is dominating the weather, and as we run through, that high pressure is still there on Sunday as well. To the south, it's still there on Monday, but notice southwesterly winds are beginning to come back in towards Scotland and Northern Ireland, turning more unsettled there. And through the course of next week, that ridge is slowly but surely shifting into central parts of Europe as low pressure starts coming from the Atlantic. So it is turning more unsettled to the middle part of next week, particularly so to the north and the west. Remember, second half of next week, we really break the ridge down and push the Atlantic through. That breakdown of the ridge, however, for the south is being put back. So, as I say, let's just wait and see how much rain we do bring into the south. But by day 10, which is Friday 27th of January, GFS is suggesting really unsettled pattern setting up. As we go through to the closing days of January, it actually hints at turning a little bit stormy and possibly a bit cold as well. These low pressures are on a southerly track, and we are pulling in some quite cold air from Greenland and Iceland there around that area of low pressure towards the very end of January. So perhaps the very closing days of the month might be really wet, but also quite cold. That could be over top though. The ECWF showing high pressure dominating on Saturday, still there on Sunday, still there on Monday, still more or less there on Tuesday, although Scotland and Northern Ireland is turning a little bit more unsettled by Tuesday. And then through next week, ever so slowly, that ridge is declining. But even on Thursday, it's probably still extending enough of an influence in towards the far southeast to keep it mostly dry there. But the north and west, we are properly turning unsettled there by Thursday. And the winds are coming up from the southwest, so it looks pretty mild. And then we get to day 10, which is Friday 27th of January, where finally the low pressure is breaking down that ridge for all of us. It is turning more unsettled there by day 10. But that breakdown for the south and the southeast is being put back day by day. Just show you what's going on with the stratospheric temperatures. So this is the latest from GFS model for the end of January, which is still .fr. Remember, we're looking for warming to be occurring over the North Pole in terms of those stratospheric temperatures. Let's run through and see what's happening. Well, we go to the 28th, and yes, we've still got the suggestion there on January 28th of a big sun stratospheric warming occurring across Siberia. And as we go through to the closing days of January, it's start of February, those warm temperatures are pushing right in towards the North Pole, displacing these blue colours down into Europe. So the cold stratospheric temperatures that we've got right now, rooted to the North Pole, being pushed out by those warm stratospheric temperatures at the end of January. That's the GFS operational. This is the GFS parallel run. So this will become the GFS operational run at the middle part of next year. I think it'll be around May or June next year. This will take over as the main GFS run. They run it as a parallel while they iron out any problems with the upgraded version of the model. So again, this is for the end of January, the closing days of the month. There's those red colours on the 28th of January. That's the key day, 28th of January. Red colours appearing across Siberia, starting to push over into the North Pole, and that big warming continues up to the start of February, by which time, again, we are infiltrating the yellow colours into the North Pole. That is a southern stratospheric warming at 10 HPA. Whether that would propagate down to 30 HPA and then into the troposphere, that's the big unknown. Sometimes you get these warming events at 10 HPA, which is the top layer of the stratosphere in the atmosphere, but they don't push down, they don't go down into the troposphere, and that's always the key to set up blocking from this. You've got to get the warmth propagating into the troposphere. So we'll have to wait and see on that, of course, but the signals are still there at the end of January. Something quite significant looks like it's trying to take place over the North Pole. Finally, CFS V2 for the next month. These are 500 millibar height anomalies, broken down into weekly periods. The first week period takes us from the 17th to 23rd of January. There's the high pressure that's dominating the weather. Low pressure through southern Europe. The wind is doing something like that. We're just missing really cold air. Most of Europe is in the freezer, but we're just too close to that ridge to allow it in. And then we get through into week 2, which is the 24th through to 30th of January. This is when the models are suggesting we break down the ridge, and good agreement with that from the CFS, with the ridge being pushed into southern and eastern parts of Europe. Low pressures to the north and west, turning more unsettled then and milder, breaking down that area of high pressure. Week 3, which is the first week of February, it's 31st of January through to 6th of February. We have the ridge in the east, Low pressure is out to the west and the jet stream coming through, so that looks fairly mild and unsettled for the early part of January, first few days of February, I should say. And then we go through to week 4, which is the 7th through to the 13th of February, when if we get the stratospheric warming, you might be starting to expect some signs of blocking appearing over the North Pole. Now, we do have quite a lot of red there over the top of the pole. If we compare it back to week 3, this is week 3, isn't much red over the top of the pole there through the 31st of January to 6th of February. But by the 7th to the 13th of February, it looks like we are increasing the blocking signal there over the top of the North Pole. That might be in association with the sudden stratospheric one. It's very difficult to say because the event hasn't occurred, so whether the model would be seeing it, I'm not sure. But the red colours are appearing there over the top of the pole. However, they don't get into a position at that point to deliver us cold weather, extending to this ridge through central parts of Europe. And there's a low pressure in the Atlantic, so the flow is still generally Atlantic based there, going up to the middle part of February, unsettled for the north, dry for the south, and still pretty mild. So that's how it's looking. Certainly for the next week to 10 days, it looks like we're trying to bring the Atlantic back. How quick we break down that ridge is open to some doubt. But by the end of next week, we might all be in a much more unsettled phase. That carries us through probably to the end of January, and then, as I've been saying, all eyes will be on this warming that's taking place, or likely to take place, in the stratosphere over the North Pole. Will that deliver us blocking for February and into March? Too early to say. Right, that's all for now. It's 5-day forecast. Tomorrow we'll also have an update for the next 8 to 10 days after that, and might have a look at GFS ensembles tomorrow as well. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.